I really wanted today to talk about. Well, I'm not going to talk too much about my mistakes, but I will say this is a topic I love speaking about because I have literally made every mistake that I think you could possibly when it comes to websites, paying people exorbitant amounts of money to make websites that are useless. Um, on my SEO strategy in the past, which where there wasn't much of one, it was awful. And so what I want to do today is give you guys the few like super key items that if you can get them right or have someone get them right for you, it makes a huge difference. I know we all have practice websites with the idea that people will find us through that website and become patients in our practices, right? There's what other reason would there be to have a website? They aren't really like just purely education for fun type sites. We actually want people to be on Google looking for something that we provide, our services, and then find us and then come see us and pay for services from us. That's the point of the website. It's meant to be part of your sales and marketing strategy, and it's done so poorly so much of the time that because I've spent so much time in the last couple of years learning everything I possibly can about marketing, web development, SEO, all of it, just because I think it's absolutely fascinating. When I see it done poorly, I just want to fix everybody. So we'll see what I can teach you here. I always try to keep these relatively brief because everybody's busy. So this idea for today's talk came to me because I've been doing a whole lot of website research lately, meaning looking at someone's website and their competitors' websites to try to help practice owners beat their competition, like get them to have their website outrank their competitors' websites in search rankings. And in doing this research, I keep seeing the generic dental websites over and over and over and over. It's like there's a couple templates out there that must exist for dental websites, and then they all look exactly the same, and they're all bad in the same in the same ways. So I know that the people that are making these sites really know absolutely nothing about SEO optimizing a website, but also don't seem to know that much about making the user experience excellent so that more people who land on your site actually do the thing that you want them to do. So when I'm working with a practice on their digital presence, it's really great that all these horrible sites exist because they're easy to beat. But if you have one of these sites, I'm going to give you some things today that you can do to make them way better and increase your chances that your ideal patients are actually going to find you when they need you. And like I said, you'll outrank the people who have the awful sites. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover two basic main categories. One is website design and user experience, and then the other is content and SEO strategies for your site. And I will say, you could say those are equally important, but in this day and age, the SEO and content stuff is actually way more important. But we're going to talk about both because I do think they're both critical. So if you've been listening to me, following me at all, like if you follow me on Instagram or if you've just been in the group and seen some of my stuff, I talk about a lot of the same things over and over again, maybe in slightly different ways, but you may have heard me say this before and you'll probably hear me say it again. If you want a really easy read, so easy book, that will teach you how to, it won't teach you how to like web development, like build a high converting website, but it will teach you the ideas behind a high converting website, which would help you communicate with someone who's going to build one for you. Then I highly recommend you read Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I talk about this book all the time. It is like literally an afternoon read. It is so well done. Amazon has it. It's absolutely fabulous. There's my book recommendation for the day. So let's talk about design and user experience first. What I am going to do for you, and I have to do more research on this because man, is it hard to find good examples. I'm going to try to put some links in the comments below this video on some examples of like kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to some of the elements I talk about today. So I'll try to go on the internet, find some screenshots of some like good, bad, and ugly examples so that maybe you can get a visual for that. Although after I explain what I explained today, you'll probably get some sense of what that is. I really want you to think about the header first, the header of your website. The header is basically what loads immediately when someone pulls up your website. So it's what they see without scrolling, like the top part of the page. And what you should be able to do is answer 3 critical questions in the first 5 to 7 seconds that someone's on your site without scrolling. And it has to be this way on desktop and mobile. And I promise you, mobile is more important than desktop. 80% of searches are on mobile. So what I would love for you to do right now is grab your phone and pull up your practice website on your phone. Don't scroll. Just let it load. And then I want to see if you can answer these 3 questions. And from a lay person's perspective, not a dental person's perspective. What do you do? How will this benefit my life? And how do I get it? If you cannot answer all 3 of those questions super easily, think like 5th grade reading level, then you want to start here. This is the most important change you can make to your website. Literally, if you did nothing else, if let's say you cannot answer either any of those 3 questions, and believe me, I've seen a million sites that cannot answer any of those 3 questions, or if you can't answer all 3, just by having your web developer change the header of your site to be able to answer those 3 questions. What do you do? How will it benefit my life? And how do I get it? It will change how many people interact with your site and do the thing you want them to do. The next thing I want you to look at, because this is I'll say the biggest mistake, it could be second biggest mistake that I see that drives me crazy, is I want you to look at your homepage as a whole. So homepage from top to bottom, you can just skim it. If you know what's on it, great. And I want you to ask yourself this question. Whose story are you telling? If any. Like if you're telling any story at all, whose story are you telling? Why am I asking about stories? Well, we know that stories engage people. Stories tickle people's emotions. And that is actually how people make decisions in their life and take actions, is based on their emotions. We rarely do things based on our logical thinking. It's almost always emotion. The mistake I see on so many of these dental websites that I open is that the homepage is telling the story of the doctor or of the practice. And honestly, nobody cares about you. I mean that in like a very loving way. But they care about what you can do for them, right? People are inherently ego-driven and me-focused. It's just the way humans are. So tell their story, meaning your web page, your homepage, should be about them. They should be able to see themselves in the story you're telling on the homepage, not your story. Not that you're a 3rd-generation dentist or that your practice has been in the community for 25 years. And not that those things are completely unimportant, but they should not be the focus of your homepage. You want to think of yourself as the guide. Basically, you are the expert that is going to help get them what they want, right? So the story's about them. And you are like, the example that's always used is Star Wars. You are like the Yoda to Luke Skywalker, but you are not Luke Skywalker. They are the hero. They want to go through some kind of transformation or have their problem solved or whatever that is. And then you're just going to help them to get there. I want you to keep that in mind when you look at your website, because that is how we make a website that has user engagement really high. What you want people to do is get to your website. So let's say someone gets on Google and they type in emergency dentist their city. Let's say they have a toothache. And a list pops up, and let's say you've been doing all kinds of amazing SEO, and you show up in one of the top 3 spots, and they click on your site. When they land on your web page, that web page should speak very specifically to them, what they want, their journey, what benefit they're looking for, what resolution they want. That will keep them there, which means it'll keep them there long enough for them to figure out or see the amazing message or amazing stuff that you have to offer and then do something about it. If, let's say, you're ranking for the words emergency dentist in your local city and they click on it and it lands on your homepage that only talks about teeth whitening, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You'd want them to land on a page that talks about emergency dental and how you're going to help get them out of pain, and that's, whatever. It has to make sense and it has to link, but the place that they land has to make sense for the thing that they were searching, if that makes sense. And it has to be about them, not about you, okay? Keep that in mind. I know I've said it 6 times in a row, but so many sites have nothing about that on their sites. Those are the 2 big things for your webpage. And again, if you're not a DIYer, like I'm a do-it-yourselfer, at this point, because I made so many mistakes early on in my practice, paying people all kinds of money when I had no idea what they were doing or how they were spending my money or if it was any benefit to me, I've learned how to do all this stuff by doing, and now I pretty much do all of it by myself because I've learned it all over time. And you don't have to do that, but you have to know enough about what you want the person you're paying to do so that they can actually do the thing that you want them to do. So if you want them to update the header, you want to be able to say to them, I want to be able to answer these 3 questions. These are the words that I think I want. This is the call to action that I think I want. Or this is the story that I think I want to tell on my homepage. My ideal patients are adults with missing teeth. I love doing dental implants. I really want my webpage to speak to those people, or to having healthy teeth for a lifetime. Or orthodontists, in my case, we really gear our content towards moms because we're trying to speak directly to moms with kids, because that's who basically makes the decision in every household. So you want to make sure that you've thought these things through so you can make some updates. You do not need to do a complete web redesign, rehaul, any of that to make a few really impactful updates. That header, like I said, is key. And then think about the story that you're telling. And that may just mean moving some sections around or adding a section to put in something that's a little bit more geared to the patient story. And you can completely transform your website. I have spent $0 on a website that I built myself. So we'll say I put some time into it. And I've spent well over $10,000 on a website that did absolutely nothing for me. My $0 website did way better for me because I didn't know what I didn't know when I started. And a lot of website companies just do really pretty things. They make like beautiful, gorgeous websites, but they don't have the user experience that you want. They're not telling a story or engaging people in the way you want. And then it really is just something pretty to look at. You want it to be able to do something for you. It should be making you money. Like, there's no question your website should be making you money. So let's talk about the next part, which, like I said, is actually more important. And I'll explain a little bit why. But we're going to talk about content, like the words that exist on your website, and the SEO, search engine optimization of your website. Because these 2 things are important. And it's funny, whenever I say SEO, people shut off. Like, eyes glaze over. They stop watching the thing I'm talking about, I think. Like, just nobody wants to talk about it because, 1, they don't know a whole lot about it, but 2, it just sounds awfully technical and boring. But I need to tell you why this is so critical, because I missed this hugely early on in my career, and it cost me, and it's going to take, I've already started, but it'll take me years to catch up to the people who've done this correctly. So I want you to think about this. How do people find a dentist or a dental specialist? There's a few ways. They might ask friends and family. They might get on Google and just start typing questions. Maybe it's location based. Maybe they drive by and see one and think, oh, I'll go there, maybe. Right? But almost everyone these days uses Google to find businesses, to check out businesses, to make decisions about who they're going to see, where they're going to spend their money. And this includes healthcare. So this is for all things. So how do you think Google decides which websites to show to the people when they're typing in the words? It's 100% from SEO. And I still can't figure out why I hadn't put that together like early on in my career, and why more practices don't take this seriously. I see people all the time asking questions in groups like, where do I spend my money on marketing, and who should do my Google ads, and who should do whatever. And I see very little about SEO. And I know it's because people don't think they know a lot about it, but it is more important than like anything else you could probably do. Is you want to be found on the place where all the people are, and all the people are on Google. My local competition, so the practices that compete against me as an orthodontist in my city, the only reason they're competition is almost 100% SEO. They've done such a good job. They've spent years doing an excellent job when I was doing nothing. And so if I can just catch up to them and beat them on the SEO front, or even take a good chunk of their pie, I'll be winning. And that's probably the case for most of you, especially if you're in a competitive market. People, as an orthodontist, yes, we have referrals, not always great ones, but we're trying to market direct to the public all the time. And if you're a general dentist, I mean, that's how people find you for the most part, is searching for you. The SEO part is super duper important. And I know it's not super duper exciting, but there are a few things you need to know so that you can either, like I said, do this yourself, or pay someone else to do this and do it well. I've paid people for SEO and they've done nothing for me and done a horrible job. And I've paid people for SEO and they've made leaps and bounds of differences. And currently I do a combination. I pay some people for a little bit of the SEO because I just don't have time to do all of it. And then I do some of it myself. So let's get back to Google and how Google reads your website. Google can tell if your website is like designed, and that it can tell if you have HTML content, which is like design content on it. And Google can read all of the words and then how you've labeled all of the pictures. But Google doesn't really like know what your website looks like. What Google is trying to do is be accurate. And so Google wants to show pages to people that seem the most accurate for what that person is searching for. Google wants people to be happy. And they do this through keywords. So think content on your site. So the words you have on your site tell Google what your site is about. Okay? Another thing Google looks for is something called backlinks. And I'm not going to get crazy technical today, but backlinks are other sites on the internet that link back to your site, basically indicating that you are a good site or an expert site or that you're an important site. The third thing Google looks at is citations, which is basically just all of the places on the internet where your name, address, and phone number show up. Okay, so where like you can be found, your business can be found. Another really important one for Google is your Google business profile, because Google owns and runs that. That's a feature of Google. This includes your reviews, because Google ranks the stuff in your Google business profile and your reviews highly, meaning the words in there, the photos in there, and the details that you're listing. So all of that is very critical. There are more factors than that, but keywords or content, backlinks, citations, and your Google business profile are like the 4 big ways that you can make an impact on what Google thinks about you and how much Google will show your stuff to other people. So how do you know which content should be on your site? There's a little bit of research to be done here, but it's easy to do because there's so many sites on the internet that do this for you now. The easiest is just to do some basic Googling yourself. So you're going to type into Google the keywords or keyword phrases that you think your ideal patient types into Google when they're looking for your services. And then for any of those keywords or keyword phrases you type in, you are going to find out, see who the top 3 websites are for each of those keywords, right? Hopefully you're in the top 3 for some of them, which is amazing, but you may not be. And because we all own local businesses, this works great because Google is always optimizing for your location. And so if you live in the city that you work in, if you type in something like best family dentist near me, it's going to show you kind of who's ranking for that in your area. If you don't live really close to where your practice is, then you could use the words for the city where you do practice or the place where you do practice if you want to. But basically, you type in keywords, keyword phrases that you think people will be typing in, and then you look at the top 3 results, the top 3 like practice websites that show up. Ignore things like Yelp and WebMD, but like the top 3 practice sites that show up. And then you open up those sites and look at their pages. Now, I don't want you to be looking at the page just for how pretty it is, because many of the websites that I've found that rank in the top 3 are like the ugliest websites I've ever seen, but they have the most words. And I'm not suggesting you have to build an ugly website, because you can do both. It can be pretty and have all the words. But the words are the most important. So you want to see how many words do they have on their webpage. So on the home pages that I see most often, that I really struggle with, there's very few words. Like almost no words. If you want to beat a competitor, so let's say you've pulled up the top 3 for best family dentist Colorado Springs, and you've got the top 3 up. You're like, okay, how do I beat these 3? I'm currently in place 20, and I really would like to be in the top 3. Well, one thing you have to do is beat those 3 websites. So you have to be doing things better than they are doing them. One is by words. How many words do they have on their webpage? Okay, now on your homepage, you need to have on your homepage 20% more words than they have on their homepage. Ideally optimized for the words that you want people to find you for. Then you want to look at how many pages they have on their website. So how many different pages can you click through? Like how much information in total lives on their website? Sometimes it's a lot. And more pages means more word, right? Which means Google is seeing all of the stuff that's written to figure out if it's relevant. And so then you need to see, can you add more pages? And can you add more pages with more words? Not keyword stuff pages. They cannot read like gobbledygook. It cannot sound like it was AI written or keyword stuffing or any of that. Google is smarter than that these days. It needs to be pages that have content that would be valuable and written for people who would be landing on your site, but more words. Just think about more words, okay? And the last thing I want you to look at for those top 3 is, do they have a blog? This is actually the easiest way to add words to your site without having to do really funky things to all of your other pages. It also lets Google know that your site is active and being updated regularly. Google really likes your entire website to sort of change over every 2 to 5 years, but it doesn't want you changing stuff on your website like daily. That signals that something that like weird is going on. but it does like you to be adding content. So not changing pages, but adding content constantly, showing that it's active, engaged, important, vital, whatever. And so a blog is the easiest way to do that. Otherwise, you'd just be adding pages constantly. So you just have a blog. So check out if the people in the top 3 have a blog. And if you don't have a blog, start one. You don't have to do this on your own. You don't even have to do any of this or pay someone to start one for you. But blogs are the best way to start having your site rank for more different keywords. Okay, we've covered content and words. So let's move on to the other fun words that nobody knows anything about, citations and backlinks. I'm lumping these together because unless you have a ton of free time on your hands, you will want to outsource this. I do most of my own SEO from a content standpoint, but I don't do my own citations and backlinks, and I know how to do them, but I don't because it takes so much time. And my time is worth more than that. So it's something you can outsource. And if you really want to know where I outsource mine to, just shoot me a message and I'll let you know. Because it's not hard to do backlinks and outsourcing, but it takes a whole ton of time. And really you should be like enjoying yourself or making money instead of doing things like citations and backlinks. But if you don't do citations and backlinks, Google will not love your site. It just won't. They're 2 very important things to Google. Now, I'm not saying you can't do it on your own. If you really, really like think you're going to love doing citations and backlinks, please do. But most people I know don't. The last thing I really want you to think about is your Google Business Profile. You can open this on your phone or on your computer at any point in time. And your Google Business Profile is also something that you don't actually personally have to do if you don't want to, because this can be easily outsourced to a member of your team or to like whoever else is doing website marketing, all that kind of stuff for you. There are a few key things on your Google Business Profile. First, it must be accurate, like 100% accurate. All of the details, your name, your address, your phone number, your hours, that must match exactly what's on your website and every other listing you have on the internet. So what's really important is if you're going to pay someone to do citations, make sure your Google Business Profile is completely optimized before you do that, because you want the Google Business Profile information to be what you have all over the internet. Because if there's variations, Google can't always like figure that out. So it's best if it's always like an identical match. So if your address is formatted with a suite number, like, or however it's formatted, make sure it's that way everywhere as much as you possibly can. The other thing that you can do almost immediately is add 30 photos that are geotagged to your Google Business Profile. Google had to geotag something. It is not hard to do. It's just basically putting your practice location into the photo. But Google loves to have images to show people on your Google Business Profile. So don't do random images. I would say have some images of the outside of your practice, the inside of your practice, your team, and then you can have images of the services you provide or happy people who've had the services or what could be happy people who've had the services. So a lot of my pictures are just happy people. So you can do that too. And geotag them, because if you have no photos attached to your Google Business Profile, Google doesn't love it. In your bio on your Google Business Profile, do you have a bunch of your keywords in there? Once you've done some research or thought about what keywords your ideal people might be typing in, make sure some of those are in your Google profile, like in your bio, the little paragraph that shows up in Google Business, because Google reads that too. It lets Google know that if you are a family dentist that also does cosmetic dentistry, emergency dentistry, teeth whitening, teeth cleanings, whatever, if all those things are in your bio, Google's like, great, I'm going to show this practice because someone just typed in teeth whitening Colorado Springs and I would like that one to show up. So the words are really important. The last feature Google Business has is like a posting feature. So you can add posts and it's almost like social media. But the idea behind it on Google is Google wants you to be able to update your customers about offers, specials, events. I mean, anything you kind of want to tell the people that might interact with your business. And so at a minimum, it should be once a month that a post goes out, but more often than that is awesome. So if you can do every week, like fantastic. And they're short, they're not big like a blog post. I would say they're maybe not as brief as a social media post, it's maybe in the middle, but they can be educational. It could be a video, it could be a photo. It can be super short. It could be a little bit longer. It's basically same idea here, showing Google that you're active, that you're engaged, that you're like putting up new information, that your business is like active and doing well. And I know that's a lot. Like when I give you guys lists of things, it can feel like a whole bunch, but you don't need to do everything all at once. Like when I say there's 18 things you could possibly do, please don't try to do all 18 of them. I always say, pick one thing, pick the lowest hanging fruit. What is the easiest thing to maybe do? Could you maybe have someone from your team see if your Google business profile is optimized? Yes. Like, find something you can do or something you can delegate really easily and start there. And then once you've done a few items or got a few items taken care of, then you can just go on to the next item. Time is in abundance. I don't want anyone to feel scarcity of time. But all of those things that I've mentioned today are the things that I think are the most important things if you want your website to work for you. It should be making money for you and for people to be able to find it. You can do this stuff yourself. You can have internal team members do some of it. You can pay people to do some of it. And if you really want to know who the good people are to pay, and yes, I do this for some people, but not very many. So I'm probably not going to tell you it's me. But I do know a few good people, especially for backlinks and citations. Let me know, and I can kind of point you in that direction. The unfortunate thing is that many marketing agencies, because I've been screwed over by many of them, provide very poor website and SEO services because they can get away with it. And that's because they know more than you do, and they know that you probably don't know anything about what they're doing. So you can't ask tough questions. You can't figure out if the stats or metrics they're sending you make sense. And so just by using some of the words I've used with you today, some of the concepts that I've explained to you, or even if you do a little bit of reading up on it on your own, you can have an intelligent conversation with your marketing agency or one you're going to hire and know whether it's going to be a good fit. I've interviewed so many marketing agencies, and so many times I realized I knew more than they did, which meant they were not going to get my business. And that's, I'm not suggesting you need to be a marketer, but if you can ask some good questions and have them explain to you like how they're going to do their SEO and what best practices they follow, and if they can show you examples of stuff that's worked for them, that will help. Because so many of them just sort of give you vanity metrics that don't make a lot of sense. They can't prove their ROI once they get working with you, and they just hope you keep paying every month, even though they can't actually show you where they're making a difference. The good news is this: best practices are best practices. There are things that change. There are trends that change. Google changes their algorithm. Like, there's little things that change over time, and people that are staying on top of the trends know what those things are. But the stuff that works well in SEO, the basic concepts, have been working for a long time and continue to work. So if you have a really good person doing this stuff for you, they could kill it for you. You could have words that are ranking right now number 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and you could get them into the top 10 and then up to the top 3, usually in less than a year, which is pretty awesome. Because if you think about it, that's pretty fast to jump up just by putting words onto Google. So my second caveat here is really great marketers, so really great marketing agencies or people that they're not cheap. I see posts all the time about people asking where they can get the cheapest marketing from. And I always cringe at that question a little bit. The better question to be asking is, where can I get the best return on my investment? Because let's say a marketer costs $2,000 a month to do a whole bunch of stuff for you, but they're not making you any money at all. So you're just kind of like flushing $2,000 a month down the toilet, right? Nobody would want to do that for very long. That feels like a very big waste of money. Let's say, and I'm making numbers up just not to scare anybody off. Let's say you find a great marketer who's going to cost you $10,000 a month. But every month that you work with that marketer, they make you $30,000 a month. How many of you would do that for eternity? A 3 times ROI is pretty awesome. So if you knew that every time you gave someone $1, you got $3 back, you probably wouldn't stop doing that. Be like, here's my $1, thank you for the 3. Here's my $1, thank you for the 3. That's the way you have to think about marketing. And the hardest part about that is most people don't know how to figure out the ROI or what questions to ask to find that out. So that's where the hiccup comes in. But you should never be looking for cheap. You should be looking for effective and proof. So proof they've done it before for themselves, for other people, and hopefully that will help. Ideally, you never want something lower than a 2 times ROI, and I've seen people get up to 10 times. So if someone's consistently doing that, they are worth their weight in gold. Okay, I hope I didn't overwhelm anybody. I will do my best to get some examples of good, bad, and ugly headers and website content down below for you. Give me till the end of today. I should be able to get that in there. And then I'll see you guys next week for another live, and I'll send out an email to let you know what the topic is.